For this short video, I'm going to focus on the historical roots of anti-Semitism. These roots take place in ancient times where they really start. The Roman Empire had many anti-Semitic beliefs, and Jews were seen as secondary citizens. This was really because at the time Jews were the only monotheistic religion, and this made them seem as outsiders. Anti-Semitism really was exacerbated with the rise of Christianity, as Jews were seen as the perpetrators of the crucifixion of Jesus. And eventually, these historical roots resulted in large-scale Jewish expulsion and a Jewish diaspora in many of the great powers in Europe during the Middle Ages. So, ancient origins. During the times of the Roman and Greek Empire and even the Egyptian Empire prior to that, Judaism was a monotheistic religion that stood in stark contrast to the prevailing polytheistic beliefs of many of these ancient civilizations. This is really one of the main reasons why, at first, from the earliest of times, Jews were seen as outsiders and were and a lot of times were treated as second-class citizens. An example of this is the Roman orator and statesman Cicero. In 59 BCE, Cicero delivered a speech in Rome on behalf of his client Flaccus, who was accused of having seized gold contributed by the Jews to the temple while he was a pre-consul of Asia. In his speech, he describes Judaism as a barbaric superstition that should be opposed and criticizes the Jews of Rome for playing too prominent a part in public assemblies. His sentiment was really summed up and exasperated, where he claimed that Jews were races born to be slaves. And this was a belief stemming back from the Egyptian Empire, where Jews were slaves and seen as outsiders. And another example of the Roman Empire mistreating the Jewish people was when they refused to rebuild the Temple of Jerusalem after it was destroyed in 70 BCE. Eventually, the Jews were expelled from the Roman Empire, which created one of the many Jewish diasporas. And this anti-Jewish sentiment was really taken to another level with the rise of Christianity in the first century. So, early Christian views. As a result of some passages in the New Testament that became very prominent, Jews were seen as responsible for the death of Christ. One of the more famous passages that contributed to this belief was Matthew 27:25, where it states, after Pilate washes his hands and declares himself innocent of Jesus' blood, the Jewish crowd answers him, his blood be on us and on our children. This passage really resulted in was one of the precursors for really strong anti-Semitism and anti-Jewish belief. Christ killer was an accusation that has been a central element in the demonization of Jews and has fueled anti-Semitic sentiments and violence throughout history. This label has been used to justify discriminatory laws, violent programs, forced conversions, and other forms of persecution against Jewish communities. The belief that Jews were seen as Christ killers really resulted in their mass expulsion from European empires during the Middle Ages. The first major Jewish expulsion was from England in 1290. King Edward I of England issued the Edict of Expulsion, banishing all Jews from England. Jews were only allowed to return to England centuries later during the 17th century. Jews faced similar expulsions from France during the 14th and 15th centuries, and again in Spain during the Spanish Inquisition. Spain, uh, Spain targeted Jews along with other religious minorities and forced thousands of Jews to convert, and many that did not convert and stayed in Spain were faced ultimately execution and a lot of persecution. These are the early evidence of anti-Semitism, and they really built the foundation that was detrimentally exploited by Hitler and the Nazis during the Holocaust. And the ancient the ancient origins of anti-Semitism all the way through the Middle Ages really highlight the length that Jews have been targeted and persecuted against throughout pretty much all of history. And by learning the deep rooted history of it, it can help us understand some present day beliefs that are still sadly believed in. Thank you.